so we got another video for you today. I did a video the other day, and it was kind of my call my shot video. I saw what was going on with these bank closures, and I knew it was going on. I figured it out like this, right? I don't have a Harvard MBA or anything like that, but I have a ton of street smarts. And it turns out that in the last 3 days, everybody's been basically telling you the same thing that I told you back then. So over the last couple of days, I've actually just been watching different videos and watching them steal my idea. But tell you a little bit about what's going on. I talked about that 3 days ago in the video specifically, but this is going to be a lot worse than anything you've gone through. And I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but I've been through some things. And realistically, the Fed, the way they're approaching things, they don't have any choice. They're stuck. No matter what they do, as long as they play the interest rate game, they are screwed. So let me walk through some videos that I've seen, which I thought were really interesting. All right, first one is going to be basically this Indian. All right, basically this Indian news station, and they're talking about Indian startups, and this is crazy. By the way, I've been a bank manager before, and this guy doesn't know anything. He's a tool. He's had the same job. He doesn't know anything about how this stuff works, and don't believe him. He knows less than anybody on that entire sidewalk. And by the way, he's a big dude. He probably ate half the donuts already. Because the Fed took over the bank and they don't have a SWIFT number. So there's no way to get, until they have that set up, you cannot send money to India, which is a big problem for these tech startups. All right, so I just want to point out one thing. These companies are at a massive risk of going under, laying off people, not paying them, whatever they're going to do. This is one bank. And we're going to talk a little bit about more in some of these videos about like what happens when you see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 banks. The VCs are panicking because, and you're going to see Kevin O'Leary, and I want you to pay attention how much money he has in Silicon Bank. And it's probably not odd as far as that number goes. these people are panicking. The only reason I think the White House called up or is decided to make these people whole, which is a big problem that we're going to talk about, is one, Gavin Newsom called up and he has money in there. And two, these VCs, I guarantee you, are calling up begging for their money back. And you bet the Biden administration realizes he has them right where he wants them and says, all right, fine, I'll make you guys whole, but you're going to do what I say. And so you're going to see this captured regulation coming with these tech startups. So if you thought the regulation, the big tech companies were in bed with government, wait until you see in the future. I don't think it's going to be anything. It's going to be totally different. So what happened is they basically they got so much money coming into the tech industry, and if you're a bank, you have to lend it out. Otherwise, the people that are your shareholders are like, well, okay, we have all this money, it's not earning us any money. What's going on? The idea is you want to lend it out, but they got so much money from the tech industry that they had to put it somewhere, and the morons, they put it in treasuries, which are supposed to be really safe. And these people are supposed to put it in treasuries for like 3 months, 6 months, a year, and rotate it. These morons did it for 10 years. And as soon as the interest rates went up, the value of the bond went down. So think about it. Like, if all of a sudden you have to sell this bond, let's say it's worth $1,000, and you have to sell this bond, and it's earning, that thing's earning 1.5%, 2%. And all of a sudden now these bonds are earning 6%. Nobody wants to buy it. So you're going to have to discount it so low, not just to make it even with the other ones, but to make it appetizing in comparison. So you're going to have to probably, drop it a good 50%, if not more. And these people are taking an absolute bath. This Silicon Valley Bank didn't have a risk manager. It's crazy because usually in these banks, you have to have your risk manager sign off on certain things. They didn't even have one, which was just unbelievably moronic. And then you lock up $20 billion for 10 years. Idiot. Total moron. By the way, we'll compare this to girls. So it's like you're dating a girl who's 30 years old, and then you meet a girl who's 25. And then 5 years later, the girl's, your 30-year-old's 35, and then 40, and then 45. And every 5 years, this girl ages 5 years, but every 5 years you get a new 25-year-old. That's basically what Silicon Bank did. The number is going to be bigger than that, by the way. And by the way, they only go up if the interest rates go back to where they were when they bought them. So if you bought a bond and you spent $950 on a bond, and in 5 years it's going to be worth $1,000, right? Then it's worth that. But if you have to sell it, it's worth $400. I'm not saying exactly $400, but $400. So it's not like you wait and it's going to be worth the same amount. It's only worth the same amount if the interest rates go back down to where you bought it. And so if the interest rates are at 7%, it's never going to be worth the same amount. All right, so that's one of the ones I looked at today. We're going to look at a couple of things from, I guess we'll start with this. We'll do Kevin O'Leary on this one. So Kevin O'Leary got interviewed by Hannity, and I just thought it was just one of the most, you know, straightforward, just no BS type of interviews on both sides. So we'll go ahead and play this for you. All right. So what he's saying is, and he's going to get to it, is before it was you have money in a bank, the banks are responsible for the deposits. If they mismanage your deposits, they go under, and maybe the Fed will, back you up a little bit. But what he's saying is that when you tell what the federal government did, if you tell everybody that we're going to make you whole and nobody's going to lose any money, what it really means is the federal government, the bank you bank at, is not really your bank. The federal government who backs up all the deposits in the entire country, that's really your bank, which means you basically nationalize your bank. So that's what he means by that. All right. So what he's going to talk about here is that once you sit here, if you're in a casino and you blow all your money, and then your dad comes up and says, "Oh, you lost $2 million that I gave you. Okay, well I'll just give you another two. I'll give you the 2 million back." Do you really think your behavior is going to change? No. You're actually going to get more reckless because you know you have nothing to lose. Wait till you hear how much money he has in the bank. I can't believe he actually told Hannity the amount. Now remember, he said he has got money in lots of institutions. Wait till you hear how much money he had in this one bank. All right, so I thought it was going to be in here. He told Hannity that he had $3 billion in that bank. So that's crazy. All right, so we did that one. All right, and then we got a couple from Ben Shapiro that I thought were really good. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm just going to play a couple points in it. Ben has a pretty good grasp on it. There's a couple areas that he doesn't quite have a grasp on it, but the parts I'm going to show you, he just absolutely nails. So, okay, financial weakness in financial reporting means the person who is reporting the numbers and like it's not the security, it's not managing the money, just telling you like giving the reports to basically Wall Street. Oops, I made a mistake. I screwed up or I wasn't paying attention. This is the worst thing you can say in the financial world is a mistake in financial or weaknesses in financial reporting. That's basically a prison with the door open and no guards. Oh, Robert Kiyosaki's the rich dad, poor dad. Okay, that's scary. Like you're hoping that there's one or two banks, and that's what they're trying to tell you right now on the news. If it's true, what he just said is that there are countless other banks. Hit a gun store, honestly. All right, so we're going to skip over to, I want to say about right about here. Um, $7-8 trillion. And by the way, when he says unsecured deposits, what I want you to understand is that when it comes to a bankruptcy proceeding, the money that you have in your bank account isn't considered your money. It sounds crazy, but it's not your money. It's actually considered in they're holding it as their money in trust for you. So the same thing. If you have a crypto wallet or you have a crypto exchange, that's the whole FTX thing. The money that's the crypto that's on there is not there. It's not yours. It's an unsecured deposit that they're holding for you, but it belongs to them. So think about it. If you have a bank account, whatever you have in there, that money's not yours. It's their money, and they have like an IOU for you, and that's legitimately true. All right. So just remember that. So when they sit here and invent money out of pure cloth, right, out of whole cloth, and they just say, "Hey, we're going to make you whole," they're adding money into the system. They're basically printing money like a money press. Remember that as we go forward, because that's going to be important. And that's the people who are going to do the most risky things. Like, I'm going to absolutely do the craziest thing and promise you this really high thing and do this crazy risky financial maneuver. Because why? They're going to make me whole anyway. All right, so this is where I'm going to translate things for you. So they're saying that they're starting to end, get rid of quantitative easing. So you go back to 2008 where they were starting printing money out of the housing crisis, and it was supposed to be the short term thing, but they've been doing it for 15 years, and so all they're doing is printing money, printing money, printing money, printing money, and then COVID hit, and they print even more money and more money and more money. And then when inflation hit, they said it was transitory. They didn't do much. And then when they realized it wasn't transitory, they said, okay, we're going to raise interest rates and stop printing money. And the idea was we want to lower the amount of money in the economy, which, by the way, is a really stupid way to do it. Um, I'll probably talk about that a little bit later. Stupid way to do it. So they're trying to like trim money to lower the amount of money in the economy. But at the same time, they're going to raise interest rates. You'll hear them talk about that in a second. And raising interest rates will just make inflation worse, which adds money to the economy. So they're trying to take money out of the economy and then and it ends up adding money to the economy. So you're basically just punching yourself in the face back and forth. And you're not really going anywhere. So And so we talked about the reserves. Is the Federal Reserve is lending them money, and so they're creating money. It's like a credit card, like taking an advance on your credit card. They're creating money and giving it to the bank as a backstop, but it's basically printing money out of thin air. And so they have to borrow, they have to print money out of thin air to pay the interest on the accelerating national debt. So that's what he means. So quantitative tightening is the same thing as we're literally going to start reducing the amount of money in circulation. And so what's happening is people are taking money out of their banks because they're scared. They're scared and they're not really earning a whole lot. And so banks basically need the money in their account. So what they do is they raise the interest rates up as well to try to keep people there. And I'm telling you right now, if you're paying attention to the CD market, that's exactly what you're seeing. All right, so I'm gonna probably finish on that one. That is exactly the problem. Is you have these banks that are sitting here going, okay, we have inflation, so we're gonna start tightening it, which is a big problem. I have a previous video on this from a couple months ago. You can go watch that. But basically, the idea is we're gonna try to take the legs out of the American economy so we can get rid of inflation, which just makes people poorer, right? And so you try to do that, and then what happens is you start increasing rate over and over and over and over again. And all these people that thought you'd never really raise rates much, because that was the prevailing thought, would committed to a longer period of these treasury bonds. And every time they raised the interest rate, it just made the value of that bond go down. So think about it. You're driving a car, has 0 miles, it's worth X amount of money, but then you have a car worth 50,000, has 50,000 miles, 100,000 miles, 150,000 miles, and the value of the car goes down. And so they're trying to raise rates to knock down inflation. But what happens is it actually, when you raise rates, it actually increases inflation. And then when you get a bonded thing like this, where they're sitting here saying, we're going to backstop everybody, we're going to print money out of thin air to do it, and we're going to lend all this, we're going to print money out of thin air to basically lend to all these banks. That alone, the definition of inflation is the increase in the money supply. And all you're doing is you're going to increase inflation either way. But the number one way to get rid of it, we talked about this in a prior video, is, and it goes down, this is where I think Ben misses this, is that inflation is basically you have a certain amount of demand and a certain amount of supply, a certain amount of demand and a certain amount of supply, and it's the ratio. When the demand goes high and the supply stays the same, then you're going to have inflation, right? Because people are willing to spend more money on products. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to get rid of the demand and keep the products the same, but that just makes everybody poorer. But realistically, what you should do, if the demand keeps going up, then you need to do things to raise the supply. And that's basically getting rid of regulation and making it easier for businesses to produce products and services without being hamstrung. And they're not doing that. So the only thing they're left with is playing this interest rate game, which is basically chasing your tail in a circle. And in the end, it's out of control. I mean, they don't have any other tactics. So at this point, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is the most serious threat to the American economy I've seen in my life. And I don't know. So anyway, a little bit of what's going on today. I'll keep you apprised as we keep going. With that being said, where was that? All right. So with that being said, I will talk to you soon, and I'll have something awesome for you.